Tell me something. Tell me, were both of you creative as children, and did you always aspire to be artists?
I have been drawing and painting since I was tiny. My parents really encouraged it, and I had a very natural knack for making things, drawing, especially at school. It was one of my main kind of subjects that I did well in.
Did you when did you first feel that you could pursue, like take the role of an artist, maybe?
So actually, I've done my first showings a few weeks ago, which were kind of also a test just to see what the people's reaction would be.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Arts to Hearts podcast. I'm very excited to have two amazing guests today. I have Kat and Eileen from our recent project of Colors Book and an Exhibit. And I'm very excited to bring them both on the podcast so that we can learn more about them, who they are, and what they do. Welcome to the podcast, Kat and Eileen.
Thank you so
Hi.
much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for coming. I'm very excited. I want people to know more about you. You're also recently published artist from, our projects. And before we go in there and get to know who you are, the work you do, how about we start with an introduction? Eileen, do you want to start?
Sure. My name is Eileen Hall, and I am an Ecuadorian and Scottish artist and creative director. My work centers around a lot around nature connection, music, consciousness, and altered states. Actually, it's inspired by meditation a lot. And I really believe in art being a force for good in the world. So I use a lot of it to kind of talk about things like protecting the Amazon, which is what I'm connected to, and also feeding into spaces of, like I said, music and meditation.
Wonderful. Sounds very interesting. I'm going to ask you questions on that. But let's go to Kat first. Hi, Kat.
Hi, so my name is Kat Vandal. I'm French artist based in London. I've been living in London for 17 years. I'm a mom of a boy who's 8 years old, who I would say inspires me a lot. Thank you. But yeah, he's my true inspiration. So we do lots of art together. He's very creative. And
That's how you turn trash to treasures.
sorry.
That's how you turn trash to treasures. I saw one of your posts where you put up.
Yes, yes. We've done that a lot since he was very little. We've always, loved to create toys with cardboard or anything, with plastic. So we've done lots of upcycling together. And for him, seeing the transformation from trash to treasure, I just love to see, the stars in his eyes. So I've always loved upcycling and reusing everyday objects, and transforming them into art. And especially now, I'm much more focused on using toys or any kind of childhood favorites, just to create, colorful works of art, and kind of invite people to rediscover the magic of childhood. So yeah, my art is really inspired by the children, by childhood, but also there is a whole sustainable, part of it, when I just love to show how, anything can be really reused and have a second life.
I love that. But also, when I was looking when I was looking at your work, I also did feel like it also had a lot of carefreeness when I saw your work, and how we often take ourselves too seriously, and art as a subject also, there are two worlds, but also how liberating your art felt was something that I caught while I was looking at it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, for me, my purpose is really to bring a smile. So it's very simple. It can seem simple, but yeah, it is. It's like, like the joy and a smile like a kid would have, without overthinking. So it's, yeah, kind of trying to release dopamine and, create instant reaction, positive reaction.
Wonderful. Okay, tell me something. Tell me, were both of you creative as children, and did you always aspire to be artists? Any one of you who wants to go first?
I have been drawing and painting since I was tiny. My parents really encouraged it, and I had a very natural knack for making things, drawing, especially at school. It was one of my main kind of subjects that I did well in. And then I went to art school. I actually nearly studied full time art, but I ended up doing architecture instead because I have quite a kind of mathematical scientific brain. So I did art and architecture at art school in Edinburgh, and that was great. And actually, I worked in architecture for a while, and then once I left, I picked up my art again, and it's been kind of non-stop since I picked it up again. It's one of those things where like I said, since I was little, I've been making art, and I think I'll always make art.
But did you ever aspire to be an artist before you thought, like, you thought, okay, you'll.
I never saw it as a profession. It's so weird. I never saw it as a profession because it always came from this place of enjoyment. And I did, it's only been in the last few years that I thought, okay, maybe this can be a thing for me and I can turn it into more of a professional thing. But no, I have to say, when I was little, I had no kind of projection towards becoming like a full time artist in the future. It was always just this thing that I was always in love with.
Wonderful. What about you, Kat?
I really relate to what you're saying, Eileen, on the I never really thought initially the artist was a career, a job, when I was a kid. So
Yeah, yeah. Never did I.
I just, I went the normal route. So I was doing lots of art. I loved art. But a lot of building things. So I would draw, I would paint, but it was more into making things, especially making also clothes. I love to make clothes, reusing um, trash to make clothes for my Barbie, especially. So this I love to do. But yeah, just building things with cardboard, reusing the cardboard. There was a lot of mess in my bedroom, but I never really considered, oh, I'm going to be an artist. So I just, I did the kind of more classic, studies in France to my baccalaureate, and then it was more like marketing, mass marketing as well. And then I had a whole, career in marketing, and it's only been a few months or a year that I'm actually truly considering, okay, this I could do this full time, but it's a little bit scary when you're used to being in a corporate world and you have your, salary at the end of the month, and you've got, clear objectives, given by others. So I've done a bit of a transition by being my own boss and having my own brand. But it's almost like I'm trying to keep having other activities next to it, just because, again, coming from a place of enjoyment, like you said, sometimes I have a bit of a guilt when I spend a day doing art, thinking, am I just having a hobby? Or, I mean, obviously now, it's starting to sell, but still, it's just, I sometimes feel, oh, some people are in the office at work, and I'm doing art at home. Is it fair?
It's not work enough. Maybe it's just you're taking it too lightly, or it's just the shot, or this is not sustainable, it's not practical. When did you first feel that you could pursue, like, take the role of an artist, maybe? Any particular moment that you feel that you want to share?
So actually, I've done my first showings a few weeks ago, which were kind of also a test just to see what would, the people's reaction be. I mean, the last few months I had really good reaction from people coming to my house, seeing my art. My art was mainly, featured in my house, and I started to get commissions from friends, and then there was a bit of word of mouth. So I started to think, okay, let's try and do something a little bit more professional in terms of, showing it to a fair. And then the reaction was really good in terms of, just how people felt by looking at toys. And because I work a lot with commission, um, this has kind of exploded a little bit with people having their kids' toys and or clothes, or first, favorite object that they don't really play with anymore. Just seeing that they could become a piece of art. So yeah, it's only been a few weeks, it's really thanks to the feedback. I mean, fortunately, it's like kind of looking a little bit for validation when I say this, but yeah, it's kind of thanks to the feedback from people. that I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a shot, a proper shot.
Wonderful. What about you, Eileen? How does this shift from architecture? And you also mentioned that you feel like you're a bit more logical and scientific uh, brain person. But when I look at your work, it makes me feel very calm and more intuitive. Do you is there a difference that you feel like yourself as in someone who was an architect to now as an artist, or it's just how looks at it, but your approach could be very different?
I actually, because I have such a kind of mathematical brain, I chose to do abstract dreamscapes, which is what my works are, especially so I could let go of control. I can't, there's I have, because a lot of my paintings are surprises even to me. I kind of set up parameters within going to work, and I do choose the colors I'm very much intentionally about, but I do want it to feel like this space that is like calming and healing, and people like just feel good looking at my work, because I just like beauty and calmness. That's just more of what I wanted to bring into my life. And again, because music has done that for me as well, it took me also a while to realize that I was also painting music. I was just painting things that felt very dreamy. I also, I've been a dreamer since I was little. I've dreamt a lot. I dream every night. And so my paintings are also this kind of, I feel, this translation from the dream world into this world. But yeah, I the transition was not obvious or easy. I just kept getting these callings to make more art and make more art. And once I realized I'm not supposed to stop, because I would start and stop. Because at school, it was all under pressure. It's exams. It's like I was very good at doing realistic looking things, but then it becomes this kind of very, it's not great for, I do have this kind of perfectionist streak in me. So if I sit and do like lifelike paintings, I will never stop. So for me, going the abstract route helped my brain think in different ways or feel things. It's right, because it's also about feeling my work. I really want to induce as much feeling as possible as well for people.
Yeah, I've seen this as a pattern. A lot of people who are more calculative, mathematical, or science, like things like that. I've seen them do a lot of abstract art, but also in forms of shapes and lines, and because I don't know, there seems to be a correlation. I'm not great with maths, or I'm not at all mathematical in that sense. But also, I've seen a lot of people who are that way, have very intricate work, and like they can sit for hours and as detailed and as close to perfection, like you said. But when I look at your work, and like I feel like you've challenged yourself and channeled a completely different side of what you had in your previous profession. What do you think has been your biggest learning in the sense of both of you, since shifting gears, or like even both of you have been creative. I also come from fashion. I studied fashion. I didn't come from an art school. I did design for a very long time. And how we have this role, a primary role, as is that of a creator, like Kat also said. How do you think your biggest mindset shift has been to act like an artist, or maybe think like an artist, even when you were like one of you is an architect, you are a fashion designer? Do you think that there's like a different mindset that you feel while you're making work, specifically art, let's say?
For me, it's really more about tuning into this intuitive place where you can daydream, you can mix colors and textures. For me, it's just more of a dream world that I tune into. None of my work I make, for example, when I'm stressed out or my like perfectionist brain is going on in there, I feel that my art is a representation of something that's more fluid, and that I can tap into in a way that feels really kind of sacred to me. Actually, I can remember actually the feelings I was in when I was painting specific works, and those are usually the ones that also strike people the most. So I find it fascinating to be able to translate feelings in that way. And for me, it's really the biggest shift is when I just saw all of life as an art. And like all of it is about kind of learning to play with texture and color. And so I try and take what I learn on my paintings out into the world and vice versa. And now actually I have a whole new style wanting to be born. Now that I've kind of let this one come and go, I'm feeling really called to actually bring a little bit more structure again, but not in a place where I'm going to feel suffocated by structure.
I love that. I love how our brain also like pushes us out of comfort and then brings us back to what who we are, but also in a fresh new perspective, in a very different way. When I started art, I always said I didn't want to be very Indianized. In India, I've born and brought up in India. I had a lot of like cat um fashion, and textiles is a very big part of India, the fabrics, the embroideries, everything. And I was someone who would be like, I don't want to go that part, and I don't want to do that, that's not me. And even though I loved it so much, and I never did. And eventually a couple of years ago, I was like, I started to respond back to my materials, and I've come back to where I was, like who I am as a person, but in a very different perspective, in a very different way. And I think like this journey of what art takes us on is in itself a very big pleasure, or I don't know what to say. Kat, what about you?
I think I'm still learning constantly, and because it's still fairly new. But I think the biggest learning really, and what I'm trying to work on is really to trust the process and trust myself, especially when I start a piece of art, because I quite often use very everyday object, or it could be rubbish. I mean, there would be a process for, like, I need to trust the vision I had. So I dream a lot as well. So I work mostly at night, and it's not really dreams about, it's actually dream about art. I always have my idea. So it's after midnight. That's when, yeah, I have to write down. So I would wake up, or I'm half asleep, and I would have to write down ideas because I might forget in the morning, but it comes a lot at night. And I would have some visions, and I would tend sometimes to ask people, oh, maybe I could do this, or what should I do? Or even ask, opinions on, because I would sometimes struggle with making decision. But I think I've learned a lot to trust my gut, trust my vision, and trust the process, that it might be for hours, it looks like nothing. And I also trust my change of, sometimes I have a very clear vision, I know exactly where I want to go, and it takes time and it doesn't look anything like it, but I know it's going to do it. And sometimes I just change completely, and actually the end result is not at all how it was supposed to be. But it's just kind of, I'm just enjoying the process, and not just thinking, okay, what is it gonna what is it gonna look like when it's finished? Is it gonna be like my dream? Is it not gonna be like my dream? People gonna like it or not? Is it gonna be in line with my other piece? Is it gonna make sense? I'm trying to just enjoy and trust the process. A bit like a kid again, like a kid, always childhood, always the children, and their their not in the word is not innocence, but the way that they're so confident. Kids, as kids, we're so creative, we're so confident, until a certain age where it kind of confidence goes like this. But you think you can do anything, and you just go for it, and yeah, there's no, oh, it's not possible, never gonna work. Like, it's kind of almost everything is possible, until you're being taught that it's not.
It's also so many else's voices. A lot of times, it is not ourselves, but over the years and over the time that we've heard someone else tell us, and that narrative is what we are telling ourselves as adults. And I think the beauty about children is that the younger you are, those narratives don't matter. People don't take you seriously, so they don't take themselves so seriously, and there's no pressure. Like, they literally don't want to put themselves in that place.
And then there's a lot of kids, when they grow up, give up. I mean, I've written a lot of articles about creativity, and because with my kids wear brand, it's all about enabling creativity in kids. So there's a whole kind of creative side of a DNA of this brand as well. So I've studied a lot, the importance of creativity, and why are we, so many adults consider themselves not creative. So many people come to me saying, oh, you the creative one, oh, you, because you're creative, can you tell me, can you give me? And they just consider themselves not creative. And the more you tell yourself you're not creative, the more you believe it, and the more you become not creative.
And we also see creativity very singularly. I feel like there's so many different ways we all can be creative. Like our methods can be very different. What we respond to can be. I see there's so many people who are so creative with maths and more logical things.
Exactly. Creativity is everywhere. And I think the issue is lots of people associate creativity with a skill of knowing how to draw or to paint, but you don't have to know how to paint or draw to be creative. Yeah, it's a mindset, exactly. It's not really taught, it's nurtured.
Yeah. No, and also I think we are all in a way we're all with it, like creating something. We're all here creating something, no matter what tool or medium we are. But it's how we look at it, and if we believe, if we give ourselves the permission that we can create something and not put ourselves in those boxes, because the world as we grow up is about putting us in boxes. Okay, tell me something. What do you think has been your biggest struggle so far as an artist? Like um something that you feel that you've struggled and feel as a bigger challenge for yourself. Aline, you want to go first? Oh, you're going. Go ahead. No, we can hear you.
I think for me, it's. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go for it. I think the imposter syndrome is my biggest challenge, probably. Just again, because I think how many years do I need to have behind me to call myself an artist? I've struggled to actually call myself an artist. It's like, oh, I do art. No, I'm an artist. I am an artist. I have to repeat this to myself quite a lot. So this imposter syndrome, also on pricing and thinking, okay, how where's the legitimacy coming, and how. So this is my biggest, yeah, I think my biggest challenge. I mean, one of the biggest. I would say the other one is kind of selling myself, being showing up, because I'm much more of a introvert person, and I just, if I could stay in my cave, do art, or with people I really know, but having to sell my art and go to towards people and do a bit of the selling is also a bit of a.
Challenge. Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Aline?
Yeah, I think the selling part, I'm not necessarily really into it. I just want to be making art, not worrying about the selling part. So yeah, I think the biggest obstacle is balancing life with the making of art and also the selling of it. Especially since like art can just also take a long time. I mean, it took me a long time to get to a style that I was happy with. So it's quite a substantial investment that a lot of artists make into their art, and just making that actually balance out with all other responsibilities. I have to keep taking time off so I can go and earn money in a way that isn't so unstable.
Yeah. I was somebody was for a session I was doing in the morning today, and she asked me, um she was from design background, and she runs a studio, and she's been transitioning in in a studio practice, art practice. And she did ask me in the sense of about selling art. And I said, like, this is such a facade that a lot of people tell, that at least what I believe, that people feel like everything happens overnight, or it just takes that you can just, I think, like Elaine, you said, artists make a huge investment in their own self even before they can, you know they think that it can pay them off. A lot of cases that can happen. But if we're talking about, like, like you said, feeling happy with where I am, um tuning in myself in my own creative voice, figuring out who what really matters to me, coming on to something that I can start seeing myself into, or just making art without thinking that if there's even if it's going to ever sell or not, that there's this compulsive need that we need to keep making irrespective of this outcome. There's so many bottlenecks, in the sense of we take those so many leaps before we actually even think about, or go far as selling something, and then everything like comes on later. I'm It's great for people for who it does come early, but it's not for a majority of people. Okay, tell me, each one of you. I feel that you both have very different processes. Where, Kat, you have a child involved. You pick up materials, and it's also about, giving second life. Versus you, Eileen, has this very meditative, like I said, I love the last three, works you've posted on Instagram. I'm imagining you have very different creative process, so I want to see how both of you treat not only the outcomes but how you approach your work, how you respond to materials. Like, both of you are part of a colors project, while Kat, you have this very childlike, very reckless in the sense of, but free. Eileen, you have this very, how do I say it? You have this very subtle, free flowing, but also softly flowing kind of approach to colors, but it also pops out. Both of you have colors as a very strong role in your work, but very differently. Let's talk about what your creative process is. How do you respond to materials? How do you even respond to colors for that matter, since we're also talking about that?
Mhm. Well, I mean, I grew up in Ecuador, which is one of the most colorful countries I know. Latin America, as you know, in India as well, it's just full of vibrancy and colors. So that, I feel that I ate colorful food. I dress colorfully. I love color deeply, actually. And a lot of the art I'm attracted to is color. And then the day when I realized that I just want to play with color, like for me, it was I just want to play and I want to make art that I feel makes me feel good. And it includes, like I said, this connection to nature and the dream world, which is subtle, it's gentle. And like I said, I've also been a long-term meditator. So the meditation aspect comes with everything. And I also chose watercolors because I've dreamt of water most of my life. Water's been this kind of guiding element. And I see consciousness and our mind as water at times, like the fluid nature, the shape shifting nature of our minds, I think can be represented in water. And so I chose watercolors also because I could do them smaller. When I was trying to do big canvases with oil, I find that I would just not paint as often. I just kept delaying being an artist because I was choosing materials that were expensive, hard to do. Like I just hadn't. But when it clicked into place, having the watercolors where I could try lots, I could experiment a lot more and it didn't cost me a fortune, then that got the process going to the point where I could then start kind of investing more into that specific style. And now it's got to the place where I'm ready to go back onto big canvases at some point. But watercolors were a very important piece of my process. As soon as the materials locked into place, it unleashed a lot for me.
I also feel like you also feel like a very earthy person, and you, like you said, you're also very responding to nature. And watercolors, I feel like, is very earthy. Like it has this very natural, because it's water, but also the pigments in a way that it feels very grounding. And because we use a lot of cotton papers, I think out of all the mediums, I specifically love watercolors the most because of how grounding and how earthy they feel. And they also don't have this, environmental impact as much as oils and acrylics do have.
Yeah, absolutely. I can make them yeah, you're right. Watercolors can last a long time. Yeah, yeah, they're very efficient in that way. Hmm.
Yeah. What about you, Kat? What is your process like?
So yeah, I mean, I've had a completely different. So I grew up in France, in suburbs of Paris, where colors is not necessarily that present, let's say, and especially, I mean, in terms of. So I try to kind of express myself as a teenager, as a young adult, wearing kind of colors, and I usually kind of face a lot of kind of comments and critiques on wearing too much color, being a bit too visible, a bit too much this, or wearing pink, and it was a breath of fresh air when I moved to London, actually, just in terms of the freedom to be able to express yourself with color. I don't know if how much that kind of impacted my need, even more my want to have bright, bright color with everything I do. But yeah, I mean, the process is really, I see, I'm inspired by everything I see. So, even rubbish. So, I'm really inspired by the street of London. I do graffiti as well. So I love street art. So every piece that I make is like trying to use kind of childish colors, very vibrant, kind of almost primary colors, but I always like to edge it up with something a bit darker. So for me, contouring, detailing, adding black and white to colorful pieces. I feel like actually a colorful pieces needs black for them to stand out, and just, I mean, it's probably my touch of having this edginess, or adding some graffiti, vandalizing a bit, like I
Yeah, very rebellious.
and it's yes, so it's using innocent, bright, simple primary colors, and then adding some kind of edge to it. So quite often I would start a piece with the colors, and then it's the second part of my process would be, okay, I'm going to vandalize it now, I'm going to ruin it, but not really ruining it, but that's how I kind of make it a bit more special. Um, and maybe it's my last name that made me do this, but it's just I just like the idea of adding a bit of rebellious um, contrast and to the bright colors.
I love that. Thank you, both of you. Thank you so much for sharing your work. And congratulations on being a part of the project. Anyone who is interested in knowing more about them can also, you can go visit their website. You can learn more about Kat and Elaine on their Instagrams. And you can also grab the copy of the Colors book where you can find more about them. But before I let you go, I have one last question. Both of you, if you have any upcoming project to share or where people can find you, support you, please plug in, and I'll let you go. Um, Eileen, do you want to start?
Sorry, with what?
Uh, if you have any project that you want to share, where can people who's listening to this episode find you, support you? Please let us know.
Oh yeah, just my website. It's eileen-hall.com. The stuff I'm involved with protecting jungles in Ecuador. You could probably follow that through my personal page as well, but there's also tayos.org is my other website. Best to sign up to my newsletter or through my personal website or follow my Instagram for updates.
What about you, Kat? How can we share your work, support your work, and know more about you?
Yes, I have a website, so it's catvandalart.com. My Instagram, cat.vandal as well. I'm quite active on Instagram. I've tried to post every day for the last 10 days, which has been a challenge, but I did it. I've got also, I'm going to be at Parallax on from the 19th to the 21st of July. Yes, so that's where you can find me for the moment. I haven't got a newsletter yet, but you can contact me on my website, and because I do lots of commission, it's a lot of talking and brainstorming with.
We'll make sure we link your links and add all the details. Thank you so much, both of you. I hope you both have a good day.
Thank you so much, Charuka. Have a good day. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.